The commander of the company refused to prefer charges against them, by S. C. Turnbo. To show how fearless some officers were in war times in protecting the rights of their men, we will give an instance of the kind which occurred in the month of February 1863, while our regiment, the 27th Arkansas, was in winter quarters 2 miles south of Little Rock, Arkansas. Now, when our company, A, first was organized, the men were sworn into service for 12 months only. Now, soon after this, orders were received from the Confederate government by the recruiting officers to cease taking in men for 1 year and to swear them in for 3 years, or at least the duration of the war. Now, when the wartime of 12 months' men had expired, they expected to receive an honorable discharge. They were disappointed, however, for they were told that they must remain in the Army until the close of the war. No doubt if any other officer except Colonel J. R. Shaler had been in command of the regiment, these men would have re-enlisted and remained with us. But as it was, a number of them refused to stay and left camp. Now, among the 12 months' men whose time had expired were 3 brothers of the name of Tom, John, and Jim Wood. Now, they were the sons of Johnny Wood, who lived on Old Bellefonte Road 5 miles west of Yellville, Arkansas. These men were not so fortunate as the rest, for the few days after they had left Little Rock on their way home, they were arrested on the road by the cavalrymen and brought back to camp as prisoners and put under guard. Now, Shaler went to work at once, trying to work up a scheme to have the men court-martialed and shot for desertion. Lieutenant Curtis Ray, who died at Oakland, Arkansas, the 29th of March, 1907, he was in command of our company when the boys were brought into camp, and after Shaler had them placed in the guardhouse, he sent for Lieutenant Ray to report to his quarters. Now the officer arrived, and the colonel informed him that he must prefer charges against the Wood boys as deserters. Now, which Ray refused to do, in giving the reasons that these men were good soldiers and that their time of service had expired, and they were under the impression that they had the right to go home and ought to receive an honorable discharge from the Army. Now, the colonel grew angry at these words and told Ray that he would not tolerate such language from one inferior rank of him, and bluntly informed the commander of the company that he must prefer charges against them as he was ordered. At this, Ray says, "I cannot do this under the circumstances. If they were real deserters, it would be my duty to do this. But I do not consider it my duty to do so in this case." And he gave his superior officer to understand that he would not bring charges against the men. "Well, Lieutenant Ray," said the colonel, "if you don't bring charges against them, I will compel you to do it." It was now that Ray's temper was rising, and he looked at his colonel in the face and says, "How will you compel me as you threaten to do?" And Shaler replied, "I will have you court-martialed for contempt and disobedience of orders." This last threat by the colonel made Lieutenant Ray more defiant than before, and he replied immediately, "Colonel Shaler, court-martial me, and be danged if you do. I will not bring charges against them boys." And he turned on his heels and he walked back to his quarters. The colonel, finding that he was not able to frighten or drive Ray to have the Wood boys punished, decided it was the best policy for himself to release the boys. And the prisoners, they were set free in less than an hour afterward. And for the friendship that Ray had shown them, they remained in the company until the end of the war.